Thanks, JR. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the moment you've waited for 3 months. Cars on track, stock cars, that is, at Daytona. Look at that beautiful view from the cable cam. 17 of the 19 entries are lined up and ready to go for new practice for a race with a new name, the Sprint Unlimited. Formerly the Bud Shootout, originally the Busch Clash, the race that pits pole winners and past winners of the shootout who attempted to compete last year against each other in a mad dash in which the fans decide the format and lots more. It's a beautiful day here in Daytona after 2 days of solid rain. We got a good bit of sunshine today. Temperature's been in the mid-60s, a light breeze, and partly cloudy, about half clouds, half sun today. So welcome. I'm Mike Joy with Darrell Waltrip and Larry McReynolds as the first car hits the track. Jimmy Johnson all by himself, and a snarling pack comes off pit road at the other end of the speedway.
Mr. Lonely right there. Every time we come down here, the last couple of years anyway, Chad Canals has elected to keep Jimmy out of the fray. Kind of runs along by himself. I don't know what they can learn this afternoon trying that kind of strategy. We'll see if he gets up there and gets amongst them or not.
So here's an 11-car train, Larry, getting their first taste of the asphalt. They all went through inspection. And these cars, not the same cars they'll run in the Daytona 500, but very similarly configured, get their first turn at the Speedway.
Yeah, because there's no qualifying for this race. There's a fan selection, a fan vote, which we'll talk about a little later on in the show. So you have a 1-hour session and a 45-minute session to get your car ready to race. And that's the reason these 11 drivers, they're out there in a big pack.
Yeah, and right now, these guys are going to be so cautious. They don't want to tear up anything today in practice. There's not a lot of backup cars. These guys want to kind of take care of this car. They don't want to lose one today in practice and then maybe take a chance on losing one tomorrow in the race. So I don't know if they're going to, how aggressive we're going to get here. We'll see.
And the reason they have to be so careful is these cars are of a brand new design. NASCAR calls it Generation 6. All new Ford Fusions, Toyota Camrys, and something Chevrolet calls the SS. And in the rush to finalize specs and get parts approved, there just aren't a lot of these cars built on the ground and available to bring here to compete.
I know this will change, but this gap that we see between these cars as they run along here in a straight line is something that these guys have told me that they can't quite figure out with this car. They can't seem to close that little gap that ends up about 3 to 4 feet.
All right, let's check downstairs in the Sprint Cup garage area. Steve Burns.
Thank you very much, Mike Joy. Great to be back with you guys. Hey, in a career where Jeff Gordon has put up some amazing numbers, some of the biggest numbers right here, he is running his 20th consecutive Sprint Unlimited All-Star race. He's won twice, including 1994, his earliest win. You were talking about the cars. Things have gone full circle for Jeff Gordon. The contours on these cars, the noses, the lines, everything is different for all these drivers, including Jeff Gordon. Matt?
Steve, that's why Dale Earnhardt Jr. comes back to Daytona with renewed enthusiasm and even higher expectations due to that new Gen 6 Chevy that he's going to be competing in 2013. Jr. thinks now with this race car, pack racing here at Daytona will once again be the norm, not the exception. But the biggest thing he wants to continue, the chemistry between himself and Steve Letarte, his crew chief, that they achieved in 2012. He really thinks this former Unlimited winner could score another big trophy. But Mike Joy, there's so many new driver and crew chief combinations. They all want to mirror what Letarte and Jr. achieved last year.
Yeah, we'll explore those as we go through this practice and the one to follow live on Speed this afternoon. That's the biggest pack right there, 11 cars strong, working a double file draft out of turn number 2. The Speedway is open and Sprint Unlimited practice is underway with Kevin Harvick, Tony Stewart, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Speed's presentation of NASCAR Sprint Unlimited practice presented by Sprint. You control the Sprint Unlimited at Daytona. Vote now at NASCAR.com/Sprint Unlimited. Everybody has been on track for practice with the exception of the number 32 of Terry Labonte. That's 18 out of 19 cars. 3 other drivers are eligible by either winning a pole or being a past winner. That in a moment. Harvick right now leads the speed parade with Eric Almirola and Paulo Montoya, a Chevy, a Ford, and a Chevy atop the list. As Terry Labonte pulls out, that means every car will have made some practice laps. And the 3 drivers who did not pick up a ride for this race that are eligible: A.J. Allmendinger, Ken Schrader, and Bill Elliott.
And I think if we see a pack of drivers get lined up catching another pack, you'll see these speeds creep up very close to, if not go over, 200 miles per hour.
Yeah, we would expect this car, you know, it's got a little less rear spoiler on it, which would help the downforce and take a little downforce away, help the drag down the straightaway. You would expect these cars to be a little bit quicker once these guys kind of get comfortable. I think they're still looking for a comfort zone with this car. I'm not sure they're there yet.
You know, when I watched this pack of cars right here, I was anxious to see if this was going to be the case, but at the front of this pack, we've seen the 3 Joe Gibbs drivers. Of course, Matt Kenseth now in the 20. You see Denny Hamlin in the 11, Kyle Busch in the 18. They showed a lot of speed down here at the test in single car runs and drafting, and right now they seem to be able to, for the most part, stay at the front of this pack.
Yeah, Kyle Busch has been actually leading this crowd pretty much ever since they get started to hit the racetrack.
Looking from Denny Hamlin back at the pack. Somebody had to decide the race format for this race, and why should Mike Helton, John Darby, and Robin Pemberton have all the fun? Sprint put it in the hands of the fans, and there is the voting result by a 2-to-1 margin. A 20-lap final segment. I was a bit surprised by this, but 30, 25, and 20 laps are the way the 3 segments will play out. Now, you can still vote. There is a mandatory pit stop unless you vote not to. It could be a 2 or a 4 tire stop. You folks will decide. Will cars be eliminated at the end of the 2nd segment from the race? You get to vote on that. And there are also, in a little bit of whimsy, 3 choices of which fire suit Miss Sprint Cup will wear in Victory Lane. To vote, go to NASCAR.com/SprintUnlimited, or each vote from the NASCAR Mobile 13 app on your smartphone counts twice. So, as they say, vote early and vote often. There's a lot to be decided. And one thing that only the fans who are here tomorrow will decide is the starting lineup. They have 3 choices to make there as well.
These guys are look like discussing choices right now.
Oh,
there we go. A bunch of cars.
Kurt Busch hard in the wall.
Mark Martin in the 55.
Gets hit by Montoya. Then gets
Joey Logano was the first car sideways, and it was as a result of contact. So Logano, Busch, Mark Martin all received damage. Perhaps Carl Edwards as he pulls in. We'll have to check on that. There's the Furniture Row Chevrolet.
78 car there's torn up pretty good.
Logano got into him coming across. Watch the yellow car of Logano, and let's see how this gets started.
That's actually Matt Kenseth.
I'm sorry,
yes,
you're right.
in the 20 car. Yes.
Came right down in front of the 78 and made contact, and it's on from there. That's what happens with these guys when you run in a pack. If something happens up the front, you're going to get in it.
Looked like Carl Edwards in the 99 there.
Montoya got a good bit of damage as well. And yes, it is the 20 of Matt Kenseth. Logano used to drive the 20, but his new car is also yellow and red.
Watch the yellow car of Kenseth. He comes down just a little bit in front of Kurt Busch in the 78 and just comes really across the nose of the 78, and then they spin from there.
Edwards couldn't avoid getting into the back of Mark Martin. Kenseth goes for a ride, and look at Montoya just lift up the back of Mark's car as he goes by. Let's go for a ride with Mark Martin in the Aaron's Toyota. Carl Edwards in the 99.
Half back to the 42 and 29. Watch the 20. Easy, 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 easy. Stay straight, stay straight.
Tell you, Kevin Harvick threaded the needle and really got through there. Let's have a look at our new Fox cable cam.
Not sure. I don't know. I guess Matt thought there was enough room to come down in front of Kurt Busch in the 78 car, but the hole just wasn't there.
There's the shot. You were just talking about
Yeah.
Kevin Harvick in that 29.
He came right through there. Great job.
You know, Darrell, you were talking about it. This is the thing that these teams did not need. You see Carl Edwards here. They lost a car in that big crash back in the January test, as well as Kurt Busch and his 78 team as well.
Yeah, all that crashing and banging you heard, that is precious sheet metal being crunched that these guys don't have a lot of.
Here are the drivers involved in this crash, the first of the season. Mark Martin leans in for a word with Carl Edwards. Darrell, didn't look like Carl had any chance to check up and avoid getting into the back of Mark there.
No, but Mark is always so, if Mark is involved in a wreck at all, he runs to everybody and kind of gets what happened. Did I do something wrong? You know, I think that's what they're talking about here. Could I have done something that maybe, you know, we could avoid, that we could have kept from getting in it?
And you saw Kurt Busch in the 78 car. He was all the way down to the yellow line. He never moved up the racetrack whatsoever.
No, you can't. We can't blame this on the car. That was pretty much driver error.
Watch Harvick way back here. Juke. Jive. Whoops. Unscathed. Unbelievable.
I think this will give you a great shot of how Kevin Harvick in the 29 threaded the needle. I mean, the hole was closed right there.
Yes.
And then he just turned it to the right.
And the seas parted in front of him.
That takes so much composure not to panic, not to lock up the brakes, not to jerk the steering wheel, but ride it out and drive through it.
One-time teammates Mark Martin and Matt Kenseth talk it over. Welcome back to Daytona. This is the Kevin Harvick ride-along program. Smooth move. We're 1 month removed from the two-day test down here at Daytona, which was the first time that anybody got a crack at Daytona in drafting conditions. And here is what happened on the back straightaway. And after that, nobody wanted to go out and draft together anymore. So welcome to Daytona. Pause in the action. Repairs on Montoya's. Target Chevrolet. Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, Darrell Waltrip with you. And the question on everybody's mind going into this session, how will these cars draft? Will we be able to pass? What are the cars going to do in the air? The side draft, can you pull up? And few of those questions are answered, Darrell, as we've got a big melee right at the start.
Yeah, quite honestly, in the wreck and practice, I can't blame the car. Now, the design, maybe the rounded nose on the car, maybe, but Dale Jr. got in the back of Marcus Ambrose and turned him. I can't blame what happened down here between Matt Kenseth and Kurt Busch on the car. Matt turned down in front of Kurt. So these drivers, it's kind of twofold. I've got to unlearn everything I've done in the past. This car will not allow me to drive into somebody and hook to them and push them around here. So I got to unlearn that. And now, as we're seeing in practice, I've got to learn what I can and cannot do with this car so we don't have more incidents like this.
Larry, in the opening moments, is making the 48 and the 24 look pretty sharp there.
Well, they're out there working on speed, and they know if they find speed by themselves, then obviously they're going to be faster in a draft. But these guys are still, I think, going to have to work on the handling of these race cars.
Well, in our view, it was Matt Kenseth who came down the racetrack on Kurt Busch to trigger that. Here's Matt Yoakum.
Mike, Matt Kenseth just finished a debrief with Jimmy Makar and his crew chief Jason Ratcliffe. And Matty, take a look at our monitor here and walk us through what took place for you in the 20.
Well, I'm going to find out here in a second. I had no, I guess I just cut the 78 out because I had no idea it was there. So I was honestly just looking at Kyle, and I didn't realize Kurt had a run on me. And so I guess it's my fault. But I had no idea anybody was even close to me, to be honest with you. So I was just moving up on 18. I was just trying some different things to get a run. And Kurt got a run there, to the bottom. And I kind of came down in front of him, it looks like.
typically, is that a difficult area for a spotter vision-wise to clear a driver just because of the angle from where you are at that point of the racetrack to the spotter stand?
Well, look, I mean, the drivers are all responsible for their moves that they make. You know, I'm the only one with a steering wheel, so they don't drive the cars up there. I didn't know he was there. I'd have some different things in this car that's different than before that I'm still working on as far as vision and getting to know everybody and doing all that stuff. But that's no excuse. So I didn't know there was anybody there. I had no idea. I didn't really look after I entered the corner because he was a couple car lengths back, and it didn't seem like anybody was getting any big runs because the group was so small. And I was really just focused on 18 and just trying some different things.
Can they get the car fixed or back up?
They said they're going to fix it. It doesn't look like it's tore up too bad.
Thanks, Matty. Steve?
And with Carl Edwards, Matt Kenseth said he just did not see the 78 out there. We're going to take another look at the replay. This is such a tough way to start your season. Tell us what you saw.
I didn't see anything. I should have been listening to my spotter, Jason Hedleski, because he said, watch him, about 2 seconds before this was going to happen. So I got the best spotter in the business up there in Jason, and I just didn't step on the brakes early enough. I don't know exactly. Matt probably had no clue that that Regan was underneath him. But the silver lining in this for us, here's what. Right now, Jason's going, watch him, and that one little beat, and I hit Mark, and I thought I was cleared, and then you don't see Smith in front of me there. He was sideways in the wall, and very frustrating. But I guess it's 2 cars. We've only tested and practiced, and the silver lining for us, I told Jimmy, I said last year we came down here, we sat on the pole for the 500, everything was going smooth, and our year went terribly, so we're hoping this is all the bad luck.
Carl, there's a lot of damage to this race car. Will you have to go to a backup? And the other issue is it's been hard for these guys to get race cars built.
It's very hard for these guys to get race cars built. Our guys, I feel like we have the best fab guys in the business. They work hard. They put out a lot of cars that are really nice. And they've already been down here and said, hey, we can fix this. We can make this car like it was. And Jimmy said, don't worry about it. We've got a backup car, so we're going to bring the backup car over. Send this one back to Charlotte. They'll get it ready, and it'll be a backup. But feel bad for my guys. They put so much work into these cars to wreck them in practice,
Thanks for your time, Carl.
Thanks, Steve. We apologize for Matt Kenseth's language. His upset is understandable. Some of the language, though, is not excusable. And we're all still learning who's in these cars as the new season dawns. Thursday, see all of NASCAR's biggest stars in the 2 white-knuckle races that set the field for the 500. 2 big events with a new name, the Budweiser Duel at Daytona. Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, live right here on Speed. Budweiser Speed Weeks opens with a bang. A pileup coming off turn number 4. Matt Kenseth coming down track into Kurt Busch. And other cars sustaining a good bit of damage.
See, those are looks of confusion and a little bit perplexed. These guys know, we have got to get out here in a pack and work on these cars. We got to figure out what it takes to make them drive good, get these drivers comfortable, but we can't afford to tear up any more cars.
And Darrell, I'd certainly like to expand on that. We needed to get down there and talk to Matt Kenseth, of course, a while ago, but one thing that's different about this car from last year's car is the fact that it has, here in the Daytona configuration, a lot less downforce, especially on the back of the car. It makes the car light. Plus, NASCAR's mandated a softer rear spring package that travels it even more and gets that little bitty spoiler. Look how small that spoiler is out of the air. So I think that's one reason that handling is going to be such a premium, even in the Sprint Unlimited 75-lap race tomorrow night.
Absolutely. Down to the garage and Steve.
Mike, with Mark Martin, and a lot of damage to this 55 car. I saw you talking with crew chief Rodney Childers. First of all, what's the assessment on your car?
It'll need to go home to get repaired. It's repairable, but it, with all the templates the way they are, so incredibly tight now, you can't do it here. So, so we've got plenty of race cars. The Aaron's team is. We're ready. We came down here to race. So some of the guys are smart, and we're going to just ride around and not get in a pack because of that would put them behind if that happened. This puts us a little behind, but not that bad. So we'll take it and move forward. It was an accident, something that happens,
All right, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Let's go to Matt Yoakum.
And catching up with Kurt Busch. Well, Matt Kenseth gave his perspective of what happened. He took the blame. Do you believe the opening day of basically NASCAR days here in Daytona and something like this happens?
It's tough. A lot of hard work goes into these cars, and 6 weeks of preparation can be trashed in 6 laps. But yeah, Matt went high. I think he expected me to go with him. I went low to go with Kyle, and then Matt came across our nose.
All right, thanks, Kurt. Mike?
Thank you, Matt. Most of the cars back on track. 9 minutes into practice, 5 cars involved. Matt Kenseth, Kurt Busch, Carl Edwards, Mark Martin, Juan Pablo Montoya. Our G-Oil track description of Daytona International Speedway, same configuration since it was built by Big Bill France in 1959. A 2.5-mile tri-oval with a 31-degree banking in the corners, 18 degrees at the start-finish line.
And Mike, when you look at that front stretch, 3,800 feet, with only 18 degrees of banking in this tri-oval, and you're running well over 200 miles an hour coming through here. From turn 4 all the way down to turn 1, this is one of the most treacherous parts of the racetrack, really, because you're running that fast with not a whole lot of banking.
You know, when you look at Kyle Busch here in this 18 car, honestly, what a dismal year for he and his race team last year. They finished 13th in the points. They only had that one win. But the chase that he had, the problem, he wasn't in the chase, but the run that he had in those 10 races, I think if they can figure out how to link that with how strong they've been in the past, with the first 26 races, I think we're going to be talking about Kyle Busch a lot here in 2013.
Well, he did win this race last year, and he had, was it 7 top 5 finishes in the chase? 7 top 5. He had, I think he had probably the best numbers of anybody in the chase. Pretty good. Look at this. Last year, this kept me just going, oh, he's wrecking, oh, he's wrecking.
He wrecked 3 times and ended up in victory lane.
That was some amazing driving, wasn't it, Larry?
It really was, and you were talking about his number of top 5s. How about leading 864 laps in those 10 chase races? But I think the biggest thing is they've got to figure out how to close the deal. In the last 9 races, including leading 191 at Homestead Miami Speedway, that he's led the most laps, they didn't close the deal and go to victory lane.
No, but folks, look at this car. I mean, this car looks so different than anything we've seen down here in a long, long time. Look at the shelves that run along the side of the car back to the back quarter panels. That's downforce. They shrunk the roof of this car a little bit. This is a race car. When I look at this car, I get really excited and I want to drive one of them. That thing is bad fast.
And Larry, when you look at this new car head on, whether it's a Ford, a Chevy, or a Toyota, you're not looking at the whole right side coming at you either.
Well, and of course, we would see that at all the downforce racetracks, and actually at a place here where you're looking for speed, we may see it dog tracking or skewing the opposite way. But a lot of rule changes during the off season. We're not going to see that this year. NASCAR, they've tried to make it where the teams are going to have to work on more mechanical grip, getting those 4 tires to grip the racetrack versus doing it with aero.
And the front ends on these cars are beautiful. They have fender flares. I mean, that makes a lot of downforce. The nose of the car is so clean, and the way the air flows over this car with the sucker ducts that they've allowed these guys to put in the side windows now. There are a lot of things about this car that we have complained about other cars for years. They did a lot of homework when they put this thing together, and they have corrected a lot of our problems.
And the shape of this new Chevrolet is a bit of an enigma. It is called the SS, not the Monte Carlo SS, or it's just the SS. It is a cousin of the Holden Commodore from Australia. And the street version, not only is it not in Chevrolet showrooms, nobody's seen it. That will all change here this weekend. Chevrolet will introduce the SS officially to the public, and it'll be on sale later this year. Of course, the new Ford Fusion has been in the showrooms for some time, and Toyota has redesigned the Camry.
What I like about the car, it has character lines. It has character. Imagine that.
Speed's presentation of NASCAR Sprint Unlimited practice is presented by Sprint. You control the Sprint Unlimited at Daytona. Vote now at NASCAR.com/Sprint Unlimited. Jimmy Johnson pulling out onto the track in a special paint scheme of the Lowe's Chevrolet, into the garage rather, of the Lowe's Chevrolet. Over the past couple of years, they have taken to using colors from Chevrolet's palette of the past for some of their special event cars. This color, Daytona yellow, appeared on Corvettes and Camaros in 1969. You see a few of those roll across the block at Barrett Jackson here on Speed.
Heck, I thought that thing was yeller.
And there's Jimmy's Daytona 500 car in the more traditional blue and white.
Whoa. Hey now.
I think he's one-upped your chrome helmet, Darrell.
I like colored chrome. That's some gold chrome right there.
You know, one thing that Jimmy Johnson said yesterday during media day, he said even though they did not win the championship last year, that he had a great offseason because of how competitive they were in the chase. He said between 2011, 2012, he was miserable because they were not competitive. He finished the worst he's ever finished in points. He only won 2 races that year, and one of those races was Talladega. But he said they know they let the championship get away with the tire issue at Phoenix and the rear end issue at Homestead, but they were competitive, and he said that's the reason he enjoyed his offseason so much.
Yeah, they uncharacteristically beat themselves in those last 2 races. Larry, let's look at the front of this car. I mean, it's Ford Fusion, and look at that nose, Larry. It fascinates me how they get these cars to ride level. I mean, just thousandths of an inch off of the ground, and it's level all the way around the racetrack. It doesn't rear up on the left front. It doesn't sink down. It just is real level all the way around the racetrack. That is a thing of beauty right there. Looks like a vacuum cleaner.
That's the Ford Fusion, and here's the Chevy SS.
Look at that.
Yeah, these cars still have, it's even here at Daytona, a bit of a splitter. And the goal is to get that splitter, that very bottom part right there. What you want that doing is not hitting the racetrack, but all but sealing to the racetrack, because that's max downforce in the front end and max lowering the drag on the straightaways.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, it keeps air from going under the car. And that's one of the areas that these guys have really focused on the last couple of years, is all the air that goes under the car and what happens to it. Dirty air. If you don't let it get under, if it don't get by that splitter, don't get by that nose, then that solves some of your problems. But that's where sucker ducts are something that we're going to hear a lot about as we go down the road.
Now look at the grill of that car. I've been working on a show for Fox and Speed on the development of this new Generation 6 Ford Fusion. Ford had the nose of their car approved, but then they went back to NASCAR and asked for reapproval. They redesigned it so they could, like we used to do in the old days, incorporate the actual grill bars of the Street Fusion into that grill. I mean, they are really dedicated to having this car look as much like the car in the showroom as possible, and that translates also to Chevrolet, Toyota, and to Dodge, which did develop a Generation 6 car, although they are not competing in the series this year.
Well, the boys are going to give it another try. They're going to go back out. I've been here, I've done this. You have too, Larry. You don't want to go out there and run an attack, but you've got to. You have to if you're going to race here tomorrow night.
Well, as you said earlier, Darrell, you know, you want your driver to go out there and put it in different configurations. And how about our little gyro cam? How about that shot there riding along here with Dale Earnhardt Jr.? And you want to run a fair amount of laps, maybe 18 to 20 laps, about a half of a fuel run to see where it's going to go over the course of it.
Now watch this. Gyroscopically, the camera assumes that angle of the banking so that, are you leaning to your left looking at it?
I am.
Too.
I am.
Yeah. More of what the driver feels in his line of sight. As 5 of them come by. Kevin Harvick has the fastest lap of the day, 197.3 miles per hour, followed by Almirola and Montoya.
But watch the form, that little gap in there. I've watched that in practice down here testing, and I see it. The guys all say, in this, when they're running along like this right here, if you notice, every one of those cars are spaced out the same all the way back to the 29 car of Harvick. There's a little wall of air. I think Tony Stewart explained it as a spring like there's a spring up there that you can't quite.
You'd like to close the gap.
Yeah, you'd like to push, get up there and shove, but there's a little wall of air there that they're having to try to figure out how to manage. Another one of those learning experiences.
And Mike, our viewers and our fans may be asking, why are we not seeing any of the two-driver tandem? One of the things on this car versus the car we raced last year, one, we've been looking at the front ends. The front bumper is much more rounder than last year's, but the biggest thing, the height off of the ground, front bumper to rear bumper, they don't match up like they used to. So it's not like last year was like two pieces of plywood pushing against each other.
If you want to see them do that, tune in tomorrow night about in that 20-lap shootout. And then we'll find out who can get away with it and who can't.
Especially when you see that white flag waving.
Right. Hang on, buddy. Hang on, Sloopy.
Jeff Gordon out for a run by himself. He's about 10 seconds ahead of that 5-car draft. A couple other cars circulating solo on the track right now. Matt?
And Mike, when you see the cars of Dale Earnhardt Jr. at the front of this 5-car pack and Kevin Harvick in the 29 at the back, they're trying to weigh the risk versus reward. You want to try to learn as much as you can, but you don't want to put yourself in danger to lose a car because, as you documented earlier, parts and pieces have been very limited, so they're running in line, just trying to learn as much as they can during this practice session and possibly go out in the second one coming up a little bit later here on speed.
4 against 1 now in this 5-car draft. One car gets up high all by himself. That's Dale Jr. And gets pretty well freight trained by the foursome. By design, perhaps?
Yes. What I was going to say is I watched his dad used to do this all the time, and he said, what's he doing? Why did he get out of the line? Why did he do that? It's another one of those. You want to see how these cars side draft. Can I get up here and can I get a side draft off of these guys, and will it lunge me forward, or am I going to get up here, the side draft's going to push me back? So you're kind of going through you're trying things.
I'm glad you saw his dad do it. I could never convince him to do it because he'd tell me, don't plan on being anywhere but up front.
I not only saw him do it, I felt him do it.
Kevin Harvick still quick as 35 minutes into opening practice for the Sprint Unlimited. Next Friday night, it's the can't miss truck race of the year. The NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Whoa. Only from Daytona. 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, live on Speed.
Not about Bet You the Farm that you couldn't pick the winner of that race. Probably with 5 to go, you couldn't pick the winner of that race.
Maybe with 1 to go.
Maybe even 1 to go.
This is CamCat. It is a camera rolling along a catenary. Okay, a group of cables. Suspended above the racetrack, and it's going to give us some really exciting views as Budweiser Speed Weeks rolls on here at Daytona.
Pretty fast, I know that.
You see that group of 5 pretty easily reeled in Jeff Gordon, who now drifts to the back of what is now a 6-car.
Larry, I just don't know how these guys, I know tomorrow night it's going to be cold here. It's going to be pretty chilly out here tomorrow night. I don't know how, unless they can get out here in a little bit bigger group and move around, I don't know how they're even going to know how much tape to put on the grill.
Well, you can't put tape. Your grill opening is mandated. It's 20 inches wide by 2 inches tall for every manufacturer, every driver. There you see it right above the Fusion on Greg Biffle's car there. A little bitty slot.
Speeds up on the Fox box. A couple of cars up in that 197 range now. Biffle up high. Casey Kane drops low with Truex, Harvick, and Earnhardt.
Well, we saw Biffle down here in testing. Did an amazing job of keeping from wrecking his car when they were in a big group of a big pack. He came off turn 4. The back end came around, and I thought he was out of here, but he was able to corral that thing up and drive it to the garage.
Harvick's dropped off as Biffle is up there on the high side, slotting in line 3rd ahead of Earnhardt. They've got Tony Stewart about 8 seconds ahead of them. This all comes down to the race tomorrow night that you control. You've decided the race format. Now you'll decide pit stops, driver eliminations, and Miss Sprint Cup's fire suit. Make NASCAR history by casting your vote now with the NASCAR Mobile 13 app. or visit NASCAR.com/SprintUnlimited. It's your race. Let's run it your way.
And I know Darrell is excited about this. We've had a lot of conversation how you actually got into this race. If you look at the last 4 years, pretty much if you had a vowel in your last name, you were in the Sprint Unlimited race. But we're back to old school.
Right.
If you sat on a pole last year, or you've won this race before, like Kevin Harvick or like Terry Labonte, then you are obviously eligible for this race.
And our champion and Boyer, who finished second in the point standings, neither one of them are in this race because they didn't win a pole.
No, it's a race of
Everybody
pole
says,
winners.
well, you know, Keselowski's a champion. He's the champion. If he wanted to be in it, he should have won a pole.
Well, let's just add the caveat. Darrell's not eligible. He is a past winner, but since he did not attempt to compete in a Sprint Cup race last year, that is the other requirement.
With this new car, I might just attempt one of these. Well, honey, I was just kidding.
So
maybe Martinsville, maybe Bristol, but
22 drivers eligible.
just attempt.
19 have entered and are going to compete here tomorrow night in the first green flag of the stock car portion of Speed Weeks this year.
Yeah, the 3 drivers that are not entered, A.J. Allmendinger sat on a pole last year, and then Ken Schrader was eligible, and Bill Elliott was eligible, but I just the other day heard that he somewhat officially has said he has retired from auto racing. He's going to focus pretty much on looking after his son's chase career.
But this, Mike, this car, I'm serious. When I look at this car, when I walk up to this race car, it's exciting to look at. It's really something, and even someone like me said, man, I'd like to drive that thing a few laps.
We could arrange that.
I'm sure you can.
9 minutes into this practice session, 5 cars piled up coming out of turn number 4. And those that did not are out on track continuing this practice. Speed's presentation of NASCAR Sprint Unlimited practice is presented by Sprint. You control the Sprint Unlimited at Daytona. Vote now at NASCAR.com/SprintUnlimited. 3 drivers have gone to backup cars as a result of the crash 9 minutes into this practice session. Mark Martin, Kurt Busch, and Carl Edwards are in backup cars. There's owner Chip Ganassi with Jamie McMurray and Juan Montoya, who was involved in that crash. They are repairing his Chevrolet. Harvick still quickest. Almirola, Biffle, Kane, Truex are the fast 5 right now.
Now, these 3 drivers right here, Tony Stewart in the 14 just joined in a few laps ago, but Greg Biffle and Casey Kane, we know they're not in a big pack out there, but they're out there trying to make a fairly long run. They've been out there over 10 laps in this run right here.
There is most laps run. You saw Harvick just went to the garage after putting up the fastest lap of the session so far. 5 drivers over 197 miles an hour.
And this is in race trim. You know, in race trim, obviously they're drafting each other, but those are some high speeds when you think about just the limited number of cars we've had in a pack. I'm pretty sure tomorrow night we're going to see speeds at least 200 miles an hour.
And you won't see any single car runs in these practices tonight because there is no qualifying for this event. The fans that are on site tomorrow to attend the race have 3 choices of how to set the starting lineup. Points from last year, order in which they qualified, order in which they won a pole to get into this event, or number of career wins.
And they won't know that until it's just, I think, maybe an hour and a half or so actually before the drop of the green flag of the race tomorrow night.
I kind of like it, really. You know, when you get ready to push them out on the line, okay, you go here, you go there, you go back there.
And the decision of the fans on how the starting lineup will be set will be announced on race day prior to our telecast of the Sprint Unlimited.
You know, I know there was a little bit of a debate even amongst ourselves as far as the format they chose as segments. One reason I like the fact that they went with the 30-lap first segment is if they'd have went with that 40-lap first segment, to be quite honest, it was going to put them a borderline in making that full first segment on fuel. So I don't want this race to be fuel strategy or any of those things, and that's one reason I like the segments that they've chosen.
Well, this unlimited race, the All-Star race in Charlotte, they're special events. And you need to, like the All-Star race in Charlotte, that race originally was meant to be for the fans. It was like fanfare that we have in Nashville. It was supposed to be a weekend for the fans. This race really and truly is, with what Sprint is doing, has turned it into a fanfare event. And I think that's really, I think it's great that they think about the fans and give them some input into this special event.
I love some of the new tricks that NASCAR on Fox and Speed have come up with. No one is manipulating and tilting this camera as Dale Jr. goes through turn 2 and onto the back straightaway. The camera has a gyroscope so that the camera stays vertical all the time. And as that car, you'll see it slam up into that 31-degree banking in turn 3. The camera's vertical, nothing else is.
And when you're sitting over here where over on the left side where the driver is, he can see very little. I mean, he can only see out just the corner of the windshield. And the car literally, from a driver's perspective, and look, Mike, the thing is never flat. It's always tilted. Even going down the straightaway, it's tilted a little bit. Look at that.
But Darryl, that last shot, that's what you were talking about earlier. Only the 18 degrees of banking, and you're carrying a lot of speed through that tri-oval.
Oh man, you can get more trouble just coming through here, especially when you get 3 wide.
But to me, I mean, I've been in the sport 30-something years, and this shot right here gives me the first perspective of just the banking, the 31 degrees of banking in the corner.
And see how quickly that's how it feels in the car. You're going down the straightaway. When you get to the turn, it doesn't just gradually load up. It loads up all at once.
It's a pretty neat look from Dale Earnhardt Jr. there.
And when it's doing that, Mike, it's literally pushing you into the seat. We've had shots of drivers over their head before. And on the straightaway, you'd see the driver come up out of the seat just a teeny bit. Then in the corner, you'd see him compress down in the seat. What do you figure you're pulling here? 2.5, 3 Gs?
Good question. I don't know. We'll endeavor to find out. Practice is complete. They'll have the opportunity to work on these cars, and then we'll be back with practice round 2. 5 drivers over 197 miles per hour. 2 Chevys, 2 Fords, 1 Toyota. 19 cars entered. That's how many practice. Note that Jimmy Johnson only made single car runs. That's a good reason why his speeds are so much slower. Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Mike, with Kyle Busch. And Kyle, you guys, it seems like you didn't spend that much time on the racetrack. You and Denny Hamlin, your teammate, in a heavy conversation. What were you guys talking about?
We were just kind of talking, debriefing a little bit about what our car was doing out there on the racetrack. You know, things with the M&M's Camry seemed to be pretty good. Unfortunately, I think Matt got caught up in that wreck that we had. So, you know, hopefully it doesn't hurt our fleet too bad. But all in all, you know, I think as soon as we seen one wreck, I think everybody was going to play chicken and not go out much after that. But I think things were good with ours. We ran some laps just to make sure that my qualifying line was right. Just kidding.
Thank you, Kyle. Let's go to Matt Yoakum.
Steve, 2 big observations from Kevin Harvick's Bud Ream Chevy. The car looks great on the racetrack. And Billy O'Day, your spotter, mid-season form, helping you get through that early crash.
Yeah, he did a great job. Our Budweiser Chevy was right in the middle of the hornet's nest there, and we were able to make it through the wreck. So got a little bit of work to do, working on some corner speed right now. That's kind of where we're getting beat and pulling up. So got a little bit of work to do, and the only way to do it is get out there in the middle of cars.
We've got another practice session coming up. Mike?
Thank you, Matt. The debriefing goes on, and the cars will go up on jack stands, and work will continue. 9 minutes into this practice session, Matt Kenseth comes down across the nose of Kurt Busch. The 55 of Mark Martin, the 99 of Carl Edwards also involved, along with the 42 of Juan Pablo Montoya, all receiving damage, and 3 drivers going to backup cars. From our Cam Cat, there's the carnage. And just sneaking through there is that white and red Chevrolet of Kevin Harvick. Let's ride along. What a great job of threading the needle Kevin Harvick does to get through this one. We'll be back in half an hour with practice round 2. Now, let's go to John Roberts.